Lieutenant Daniel Green never expected to make history. He stood at the viewing window of Earth Central Command, watching ships come and go in the busy orbital lanes. The message from his superior had been brief: report for special assignment. Interstellar observation, diplomatic corps. Daniel had joined Earth Space Forces 8 years ago, when humans were still new to the galactic community. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel only 23 years earlier, and most alien species still viewed humans with a mix of curiosity and caution. Admiral Samantha Watson sat behind her desk when Daniel entered her office. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she didn't look up from her screen as he saluted. "At ease, Lieutenant," she said. "Take a seat." Daniel sat down, back straight, hands on his knees. "You requested my presence, Admiral?" She finally looked up. "You're being assigned to observe the conflict between the Viridian Alliance and the Krell Imperium." Daniel tried to hide his surprise. The war between those two powers had been raging for over 30 years. Both sides possessed technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. It was the largest conflict in this sector of the galaxy. "May I ask why me, Admiral? I'm not a senior diplomat." "That's precisely why. You have enough experience to handle yourself, but you're not important enough to be seen as a threat." She tapped her screen, sending files to Daniel's personal device. "Plus, neither side has had much contact with humans. You'll be a curiosity, nothing more." Daniel nodded slowly. "What exactly will my role be?" "Observation only," Admiral Watson emphasized. "The Galactic Accord is clear. Earth cannot intervene in conflicts that predate our entry into Galactic Society. You'll document what you see, report back regularly, and maintain strict neutrality. Is that clear?" "Yes, Admiral." "Good." She stood up. "The Commonwealth vessel Horizon leaves tomorrow. You'll be the only human on board. Captain LaVarbra Bennett commands the ship. She's Arcturian, but has worked with humans before." That night, Daniel studied everything available on both civilizations. The Viridians were a collective species with semi-transparent bodies that pulsed with blue light when they communicated. They valued group harmony above all else and built their technology from living crystal. Their government was a form of direct democracy, where all citizens voted on major decisions. The Krell were almost their opposite. Heavily armored beings with exoskeletons who lived in a strict hierarchy. Their technology blended organic materials with mechanical components. They were ruled by military leaders who earned their positions through combat and strategic excellence. Neither side seemed willing to compromise. After 3 decades of fighting, the death toll had reached millions across 3 star systems, with dozens of habitable worlds damaged by orbital bombardments and biological weapons. Daniel packed light, a few uniforms, personal items, and a small plant from his home in Oregon. The next morning, he boarded a shuttle to the Horizon, which waited in high Earth orbit. The ship was massive compared to human vessels, almost a kilometer long, with smooth blue-green hull plates that seemed to shift color as he approached. The docking bay opened like a mouth, swallowing his shuttle. Inside, the air smelled different, not unpleasant, but with hints of something like cinnamon and ozone. The gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth standard. Crew members of various species moved efficiently through corridors that curved in ways human architecture never did. An Arcturian officer met him at the airlock. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with pale golden skin and 4 arms. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Galactic Commonwealth. "Lieutenant Green?" "I'm First Officer Neela. Captain Bennett is expecting you on the bridge." Daniel followed her through corridors that gradually widened as they moved deeper into the ship. The bridge was a circular room with a transparent ceiling showing the stars above. In the center stood Captain LaVarbra Bennett, an Arcturian with deep blue skin markings that identified her as from the southern continent of her homeworld. "Lieutenant Green," she said, extending her upper right hand. "Welcome aboard the Horizon." Daniel shook her hand. "Thank you for having me, Captain. Your quarters are prepared. We depart in 1 hour and will reach the edge of the conflict zone in approximately 21 days. She studied him with large golden eyes. "This is my 5th mission to the zone. I should warn you, it gets worse every time." I've studied the reports, Daniel said. Reports don't capture the reality, she replied. Both sides have weapons that can crack planets. They've destroyed entire ecosystems fighting over resources and strategic positions. And we just watch? Daniel couldn't keep the edge from his voice. Those are our orders, Captain Bennett said. The Commonwealth maintains neutrality unless asked to mediate by both parties. She turned to the navigation station. Show Lieutenant. Green to his quarters, then prepare for departure. Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel spent most of his time studying and observing the crew. The Horizon carried representatives from 12 different species, most serving as technical specialists or diplomatic staff. None had ever been to Earth, and many asked Daniel curious questions about human culture and biology. He learned that humans had a reputation for being unpredictable. Several crew members mentioned that Earth's rapid advancement from planetary civilization to spacefaring society in less than 2 centuries was considered unusual, even alarming to some older species. Your people fought so many wars among themselves, said Kryn, a 4-eyed engineer from a gas giant moon. Yet you never quite destroyed yourselves. Most species either find peace earlier or wipe themselves out completely. Daniel wasn't sure. If this was a compliment or criticism, on the 20th day alarms blared throughout the ship. Daniel rushed to the bridge, where Captain Bennett stood before a holographic display showing 2 massive fleets engaged in battle around a small, rocky planet. Krell forces are using planet cracker missiles, reported the sensor officer. Viridian fleet is responding with Nova bombs. How many civilians on that world? Captain Bennett asked. Approximately 3 million, mostly Viridian colonists. Daniel watched in horror as bright flashes erupted across the planet's surface. We have to do something. Captain Bennett looked at him with sympathy but shook her head. We can't. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The images of the battle played in his mind. How could they just watch as millions died? The next morning, Captain Bennett called him to the bridge again. Her expression was puzzled. Lieutenant, we've received unusual communications from both the Krell High Command and the Viridian Council, she said. They're requesting your immediate presence at the neutral station where peace talks have stalled for months. Me? Daniel asked. Why would they ask for me specifically? Unknown, she replied. But there's something else even stranger. The fighting stopped 12 hours ago, precisely when we entered the system. Complete ceasefire across all fronts. That can't be a coincidence, said First Officer Neela. Has either side explained why? No, Captain Bennett said. But they're both insisting on meeting with you as soon as possible. She studied Daniel with new interest. It seems your observation mission just became something more. Daniel felt a strange mixture of hope and apprehension. When do I leave? Immediately. We're preparing a shuttle now. Captain Bennett placed a hand on his shoulder. Whatever happens next, Lieutenant, remember you represent not just Earth, but humanity itself. As Daniel prepared for the shuttle journey, he wondered what could possibly cause 2 advanced civilizations, locked in decades of bitter warfare, to suddenly request a meeting with a junior human diplomat. He was about to find out. The shuttle journey to the neutral station took 3 hours. Daniel sat alone in the passenger compartment, reviewing information about both the Viridians and the Krell on his tablet. His mind kept returning to the same question. Why would they ask for him? The neutral station came into view through the shuttle window. It was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen, a massive ring structure that slowly rotated in space. According to the information he had, the station was built by an ancient civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. Now it served as neutral ground for diplomatic meetings. Preparing for docking, the pilot announced over the speaker. Lieutenant Green, you'll be met by Commander Olivia Nash, the Commonwealth liaison stationed here. The shuttle slid smoothly into a docking bay that adjusted its gravity and atmosphere to Earth standard. As the door opened, Daniel noticed something strange. The station seemed quiet, too quiet for a place that should be bustling with diplomatic staff and security personnel from multiple species. A woman in a Commonwealth uniform waited near the airlock. She had short brown hair and a concerned expression. Lieutenant Green, I'm Commander Nash. Welcome to Neutral Station Alpha. She shook his hand firmly. I've been stationed here for 14 months, and I've never seen anything like what's happening today. Daniel stepped onto the station. What exactly is happening, Commander? Both delegations are waiting for you in the central chamber. They've dismissed all other observers and mediators, even species they've worked with for decades. Olivia lowered her voice. And they're acting strangely, nervous. I've never seen either species display this kind of behavior before. Nervous? About what? You, apparently. She led him through curved corridors. The architecture was unlike human design. Everything flowed in organic patterns with no sharp angles. The ceasefire is holding across all battle zones. Ships from both sides have pulled back to non-aggressive positions. It happened the moment your ship entered the system. Daniel tried to process this information. That makes no sense. I'm just a junior diplomatic observer. I have no authority to negotiate peace terms. I know, that's what makes this so unusual. They stopped before a large door. The central chamber is just ahead. Both delegations are waiting. I should warn you, they've been asking a lot of questions about humans. Our history, our wars, our psychology. Why would they care about that? Olivia shook her head. I don't know, but be careful what you say in there. 30 years of war doesn't stop without a reason. The door slid open silently. The central chamber was enormous, a circular room with a high ceiling that displayed a real-time view of space outside. A holographic barrier divided the room in half, with Viridians on one side and Krell on the other. The Viridians were tall and slender, their bodies semi-transparent with blue light pulsing beneath their skin. They wore simple white garments that seemed to float around them. Daniel counted 8 in their delegation. The Krell were shorter but much broader, with dark exoskeletons covered in what looked like natural armor. Various mechanical components were integrated into their bodies. Some had enhanced limbs, others had devices attached to their heads. They wore elaborate uniforms decorated with symbols Daniel assumed represented military achievements. Their delegation also numbered 8. All 16 aliens turned to look at Daniel as he entered. The silence was heavy. Finally, one of the Krell stepped forward. His exoskeleton was darker than the others, with red markings across his chest plate. A translator device was attached to his throat. The human has arrived, he announced, his voice surprisingly soft through the translator. I am High Commander Zia Zetar of the Krell Imperium. From the Viridian side, a figure moved closer to the barrier. Her body pulsed with brighter blue light. Then her companions? I am Prime Delegate Ilara of the Viridian Alliance, she said. Her voice sounded like gentle music. We welcome you, Lieutenant Daniel Green of Earth. Daniel nodded respectfully to both. Thank you for your welcome. I'm honored to be invited to these discussions, though I must admit I'm surprised by your request. Ilara's light pulsed in patterns that suggested she was communicating with her delegation before turning back to Daniel. We have reviewed your species' history, she said. Is it true that humans fought over 5,000 armed conflicts in your pre-space era? The question caught Daniel off guard. Yes, that's approximately correct, though many were small-scale regional conflicts. And your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times with nuclear weapons? Star asked, leaning forward slightly. Daniel hesitated, wondering why they were so interested in humanity's violent past. There were periods in our history where global nuclear war was a possibility, yes. Fortunately, we avoided that outcome. The two leaders exchanged glances across the barrier, an unexpected moment of agreement between enemies. Yet you survived? Ilara stated, without intervention. Without external guidance. We learned from our mistakes, Daniel said carefully. No species in recorded galactic history has survived such a phase without extinction or intervention, Star said flatly. It defies all predictive models. The room fell silent again. Daniel could feel the weight of 16 alien gazes studying him. What are you implying? He finally asked. Your ship entered our conflict zone yesterday, Ilara said. At that precise moment, both our military command centers received the same reading, an unusual brain pattern emanating from your vessel. A human brain pattern. We each ran independent analyses, Jar continued. The results were disturbing. Your neural architecture shows capacity for both extreme violence and extreme empathy simultaneously, a combination not seen in any other known species. Daniel blinked in confusion. You stopped a 30-year war because you scanned my brain? Not just your brain, Ilara clarified. Your history, your civilization, your evolution. Everything in our databases about humans points to the same conclusion. What? Conclusion? Shkaris' mechanical parts whirred softly as he moved closer to the barrier. That humanity represents something unique in the galaxy, a species that mastered conflict rather than avoided it. We wish to learn, Ilara added. Before we continue our war, we must understand how your kind survived your own violent tendencies. We request you observe our peace negotiations and judge our worthiness. Daniel felt completely out of his depth. These advanced civilizations had somehow developed a completely wrong idea about humans and their role in galactic affairs. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he began. I'm not here to judge anyone, I'm just an observer. Yes, Shadar said, his translator not quite capturing what might have been amusement. The observer. That is what your people call themselves, is it not? Those who watch, learn, and then decide. Daniel realized with growing alarm that both sides believed humans held some special position or power. They had built an entire mythology around humanity based on fragments of information and their own fears. The misunderstanding is yours, Lieutenant, Ilara said gently. We have agreed to a full ceasefire and genuine peace negotiations. All we ask is that you observe and provide your insight as a human. Will you do this? 16 alien leaders waited for his answer. Behind him, Commander Nash watched with wide eyes. Daniel took a deep breath. I will observe your negotiations. But I'm not here to judge either side. I'm here to help if I can. Both delegations seemed to relax slightly. The human accepts. Shtar announced to his delegation. The negotiations will begin tomorrow, Ilara said. We will present our cases, our grievances, and our proposed solutions. You will observe all. As Daniel left the chamber with Commander Nash, his mind raced with implications. Somehow, he had become central to ending a war that had claimed millions of lives. What just happened in there? Olivia asked once they were alone. Daniel shook his head slowly. I think they're afraid of humans. Or maybe they respect us? I'm not sure which is more dangerous. Daniel spent the next 3 days attending meetings with both delegations. Sometimes he met with the Viridians and Krell together, but mostly they preferred separate sessions. They asked endless questions about Earth, human history, and how humans resolved conflicts. He tried to be honest about humanity's flaws and strengths, but he felt uncomfortable with how they seemed to view humans as some kind of superior beings. Every answer he gave was studied carefully by both sides. On the morning of the 4th day, Daniel was woken by an urgent knock on his quarters door. He pulled on his uniform and opened it to find Eric Mills, the communications specialist who had been assigned to assist him. Eric was a young officer with red hair and freckles. His eyes were wide with excitement or fear. Daniel couldn't tell which. Sir, you need to see this right away, Eric said, holding up a data tablet. I've been monitoring their secure channels like you asked, and I found something big. Daniel let him in and took the tablet. What am I looking at? These are data packets I intercepted from both the Viridian and Krell military networks, Eric explained. They're heavily encrypted, but I managed to break through enough to see what they contain. Daniel scrolled through the information. It showed thousands of simulations and probability calculations. I don't understand what I'm seeing here. They've been running simulations about humans, Eric said. Specifically, what would happen if humans decided to enter the war. They started these simulations the moment they detected our ship entering their system. Daniel frowned. That makes no sense. Earth has no interest in their conflict, and our technology is far behind theirs. That's not how they see it. Eric took the tablet and pulled up a specific file. Look at this classification they've both independently given to humans. Daniel read the translated text and his eyes widened. Apex predators of conflict? What does that even mean? From what I can tell, both civilizations believe that any species capable of surviving its own violent tendencies without self-destruction must possess something they don't, Eric said. The Krell call it the ultimate warrior spirit, the Viridians. Refer to it as transcendent battle wisdom, but they both mean the same thing. They think humans are dangerous because we've mastered war rather than avoided it. Daniel sat down heavily on his bed. That's completely backwards. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. But we didn't, Eric pointed out. That's what fascinates them. Their model suggests that any species with our level of aggression should have wiped itself out before reaching the stars. The fact that we didn't breaks all their predictions. Daniel rubbed his face tiredly. There's something else going on here, isn't there? Eric nodded. They've been scanning your neurological patterns during every meeting. Apparently, human brains show capacity for both extreme aggression and extreme empathy in ranges that exceed both their species combined. They think you're here to ... judge which side deserves to survive. That's insane, Daniel said. I'm just an observer. I have no authority to judge anyone. They don't believe that, Eric replied. They think you're some kind of warrior judge sent to evaluate them, and sir, they're terrified of what happens if they fail your test. Daniel paced the small room. I need to contact Earth Central immediately. This situation is way beyond my assignment parameters. Within an hour, an emergency meeting was called. The station's secure communication room allowed Daniel to speak directly with Admiral Watson and other high-ranking officials via hologram. Admiral, Watson's projection flickered slightly as she spoke. This is an unprecedented situation, Lieutenant. Both civilizations have developed a mythology about humans based on intercepted transmissions of our history and entertainment. With respect, Admiral, I need to correct this misunderstanding immediately, Daniel said. They've stopped fighting based on a complete fiction about humanity. Professor Abby Grant, the leading xenopsychologist from Earth Central, joined the conversation. Her hologram appeared beside the Admiral's. It may not be that simple, Lieutenant Green. Their cultures have no framework for understanding how a species like ours could evolve. To them, our survival despite our fractious nature seems impossible unless we're simply better at warfare than anyone else. So what do you suggest? Admiral Watson asked. Commander William Peterson from Strategic Command appeared in another hologram. Use it. If they're ready to end this war because they fear human intervention, let them. Millions of lives will be saved. Daniel felt uncomfortable with the suggestion. So you want me to lie? Pretend humans are some kind of super soldiers? No, Professor Grant said. Just don't correct their misconception yet. Let them come to the peace table. Once the treaty is signed, we can gradually introduce the truth. Daniel paced around the communication room. This feels wrong. We're manipulating them based on a misunderstanding. War is worse, Commander Peterson replied simply. 3 million civilians died on that planet just before you arrived. How many more will die if the fighting resumes? Admiral Watson studied Daniel's face. The final decision is yours, Lieutenant. You're on the ground. We can't order you to proceed with this approach, but we strongly recommend it. After the meeting ended, Daniel walked through the station's observation deck. Through the large windows, he could see the stars and the distant fleets of both sides. Now, holding position far from each other, Commander Nash found him there, staring out at the ships. Heavy thoughts? She asked, joining him at the window. They think I'm something I'm not, Daniel said. They've built this whole idea about humans being master warriors who can judge them. It's all based on a misunderstanding. Is it? Olivia asked. Humans did survive thousands of wars. You did develop nuclear weapons and manage not to use them. To extinction. Maybe what they see in us is real, just not in the way they imagine, Daniel sighed. Earth Central wants me to let them believe their myth about humans, at least until the peace treaty is signed. And you're not comfortable with that? No, but I'm even less comfortable with the war starting again. Daniel turned from the window. Tomorrow the formal peace negotiations begin. Both sides will present their case to me as if I'm some kind of galactic judge. What will you do? Olivia asked. Daniel thought for a long moment. I'll listen, I'll observe. That was always my mission, but I won't pretend to be something I'm not. The next morning, Daniel entered the central chamber wearing his formal uniform. Both delegations were already there, standing on their respective sides of the room. The holographic barrier had been removed. A small, but significant sign of progress. High Commander Zeoditar stepped forward first. Human observer, we are prepared to present our grievances and propose solutions. The Krell Imperium has suffered greatly in this conflict, but we are willing to compromise for peace. Prime Delegate Alara moved to stand beside him. The Viridian Alliance also seeks a fair resolution. We will abide by your judgment. Daniel took a deep breath and looked at both leaders. I am not here to judge either of you. I am here to witness your willingness to find peace on your own terms. The alien leaders exchanged glances. Nevertheless, Star said, your presence will ensure honesty in our negotiations. We value your perspective, Ilara added, as one whose species has faced its own conflicts. Daniel nodded slowly, realizing that maybe there was a middle ground here. He didn't have to pretend to be superior being, but he could use their respect to help guide them toward peace. Then let's begin, he said. Show me that both your civilizations are wise enough to choose cooperation over destruction. As the presentation started, Daniel noticed something important. Whatever mythology these aliens had created about humans, it had given them something they desperately needed, a way to end their war without either side appearing weak. Maybe that was enough for now? The peace talks continued for a week. Each morning, Daniel would enter the central chamber and listen as both sides presented their grievances, territorial claims, and proposed solutions. When discussions became heated, they would glance at him. Nervously, then quickly find ways to compromise. Daniel said little during these sessions. He asked occasional questions to clarify points or suggest areas where agreement seemed possible. He noticed that whenever he spoke, both delegations paid extraordinary attention to his words. As if searching for hidden meanings. In the evenings, he would meet with Commander Nash to review the day's progress. It's working, Olivia said on the 8th night as they sat in her office. They've agreed on more in the past week than in 3 years of previous negotiations. Daniel nodded, but his expression remained troubled. Because they think I'm something I'm not, does it matter? Olivia asked. The result is what counts. Millions of lives will be saved. It matters to me, Daniel said quietly. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the responsibility that had been placed on his shoulders. If he revealed the truth about humans too soon, the peace talks might collapse. If he played along with their misconception too long, he was building peace on a foundation of lies. The next morning, as Daniel prepared for another session, Eric Mills rushed into his quarters without knocking. Sir, we have a situation, he sighed, breathing hard. A Krell battleship has just arrived at the station. It's the Warlord's personal vessel. Daniel frowned. The Warlord? Who's that? Supreme Warlord Krath, Eric explained. He's the ultimate leader of the Krell Imperium. He rarely leaves their homeworld. According to our intelligence, he hasn't been seen in public for over 5 years. Why would he come here now? I don't. No, but he's requested an immediate private meeting with you. Just you, no other observers. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Inform Commander Nash and contact Earth Central. I need guidance on this. Within an hour, Daniel was standing in a secure meeting room. The door slid open to reveal the largest Krell he had ever seen. Supreme Warlord Krath stood nearly 7 feet tall, his exoskeleton black with gold markings. Unlike other Krell, he had few mechanical enhancements, only a small translator at his throat, and what appeared to be some kind of data interface on his left arm. Lieutenant Green, the Warlord said, his voice deep even through the translator. I have come to see the human who stopped our war. Daniel bowed slightly. It's an honor to meet you, Supreme Warlord. But I must correct your understanding. I didn't stop the war. Both sides chose to cease hostilities. The warlord made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Because of you. He moved to the window, looking out at the stars. I have ruled the Krell for 80 of your Earth years. I have fought wars across 12 star systems. Never once did I consider that I might meet a species that truly understood conflict. Daniel remained silent, unsure how to respond. Our intelligence intercepted broadcasts from your world decades ago, Kraft continued. Films showing your world wars. Stories of your nuclear standoffs. Tales of warriors who fought against impossible odds. We thought they were fiction. No. Species could survive such violence against itself. The warlord turned to face Daniel directly. Then your ships appeared at the edge of known space. Small vessels, primitive weapons, but inside them, beings who had done what we thought impossible. You mastered yourselves without losing your warrior nature. Daniel took a deep breath. Supreme Warlord, I think there's been a misunderstanding. About humans, no misunderstanding, Krath interrupted. I have studied your kind carefully. You fight differently than any species we have encountered. You seek to end conflicts, not merely win them. He moved closer to Daniel. That is why? I came here to see for myself. See what? Daniel asked. If you are what the simulations predict, a species that could end us all yet chooses not to. The warlord's eyes studied Daniel intensely. I am satisfied. You will have your peace treaty. After the warlord left, Daniel was immediately called to an emergency communication with Earth Central. Admiral Watson's hologram appeared before him, along with several high-ranking officials he didn't recognize. The Supreme Warlord of the Krell just visited you personally? The Admiral asked, clearly shocked. This is unprecedented. Daniel nodded. He seems convinced that humans have some special understanding of warfare. He said we seek to end conflicts, not merely win them. A tall woman in a civilian suit stepped forward. Lieutenant Green, I'm Secretary Claire Hansen from the Diplomatic Corps. This situation has now reached the highest levels of Earth government. The President has been briefed. Daniel felt his mouth go dry. What are my orders? Continue as you have been, Secretary Hansen said. The warlord's visit suggests both sides are fully committed to peace now. Our analysts believe we're approaching a historic breakthrough. And the misconception about humans? Daniel asked. The Secretary and Admiral exchanged glances. For now, let it stand, Admiral Watson said. Once the treaty is signed, we can begin a more nuanced cultural exchange that will gradually give them a more accurate picture of humanity. That afternoon, Daniel returned to the central chamber. Something had changed. The atmosphere was different, less tense, more purposeful. High Commander Zeatar approached him immediately. The Supreme Warlord has authorized us to make significant concessions, he said. We are prepared to withdraw completely from the contested Beetlejuice colonies. Prime Delegate Alara stepped forward as well. The Viridian Council has approved our final proposal. We will share mining rights in the asteroid belt and establish a joint scientific outpost on Proxima 3. Daniel looked between them in surprise. These were major concessions from both sides, exactly the compromises that had seemed impossible just days ago. What changed? He asked. The warlord saw you, Starr said simply, as if that explained everything. Later that evening, Daniel met with Prime Delegate Ilara privately. She had requested the meeting, which was unusual. Most of their discussions had been formal and in the presence of others. You seem troubled, Lieutenant Green, she said, her body pulsing with gentle blue light. Daniel sighed. I'm concerned that both sides have developed expectations about humans that aren't accurate. Ilara's light pulsed in what might have been the equivalent of a smile. Are they not? Your species fought countless wars among yourselves. You developed weapons that could destroy your entire planet. Yet here you are, traveling among the stars, seeking peace rather than conquest. We're not as wise as you think, Daniel admitted. We still have conflicts on Earth. We still struggle with violence and aggression. Yet you channel it, Ilara observed. You use it to create rather than merely destroy. Do you know what the warlord said to our council after meeting you? Daniel shook his head. He said, "They understand what we have forgotten, that the purpose of strength is not to dominate, but to protect." Ilara moved closer. "Whether you believe it or not, Lieutenant Green, your presence here has given both our people something we desperately needed." "What's that?" Daniel asked. "A mirror," she replied. "And in it we have seen not just our mistakes but a path forward." As Daniel walked back to his quarters, he wondered if perhaps the aliens understood something about humanity that humans themselves had forgotten. The day of the treaty signing arrived 2 weeks after Daniel first set foot on the neutral station. The central chamber had been transformed. The plain walls now displayed the flags and symbols of both the Viridian Alliance and the Krell Imperium. Hanging side by side, representatives from 12 other species had arrived to witness the historic event. Daniel stood near the center of the room, wearing his formal dress uniform. He felt strangely calm now. Whatever misconceptions these aliens had about humanity, the result was peace. Millions of lives would be saved. Perhaps that was enough. Admiral Watson had arrived from Earth the previous day, along with a small delegation of human officials. She approached Daniel before the ceremony began. "You've done remarkable work here, Lieutenant," she said quietly. "This treaty ends a conflict that has raged for 30 years and claimed over 20 million lives." "I didn't do much," Daniel replied. "Honestly, I just listened." "Sometimes that's all it takes," the Admiral said. "Earth Central is already calling this the Green Protocol, ending conflicts through observation rather than intervention." Daniel smiled wryly. "All because of a misunderstanding about humans. Is it, though?" Admiral Watson asked. "They weren't entirely wrong. Humans did survive thousands of wars and nuclear brinkmanship. We did learn to manage our conflicts without destroying ourselves." Before Daniel could respond, a soft chime announced the beginning of the ceremony. High Commander Star and Prime Delegate Ilara entered from opposite sides of the chamber, each followed by their full delegations. Behind them came Supreme Warlord Krath and the Viridian High Council leader, an ancient being whose body glowed. With intense blue-white light, the 4 leaders met in the center of the room. An ornate table had been placed there, bearing a single document, the peace treaty. It contained hundreds of pages detailing borders, resource rights, reparations, and security guarantees. Both sides had worked day and night to complete it. Daniel was surprised when all 4 alien leaders turned to him. "Lieutenant Daniel Green of Earth," the Viridian High Council leader said, her voice like wind chimes. "Will you witness this historic moment?" Daniel stepped forward. "It would be my honor." The treaty was signed with great ceremony. The Krell used ceremonial blades to cut their palms, pressing blood onto the document. The Viridians channeled their inner light through special crystals that burned their signatures into the pages. When it was done, Supreme Warlord Krath raised his hands. "Let it be known across all worlds that the war between the Krell Imperium and the Viridian Alliance is ended. From this day forward, we shall build peace together." The chamber erupted in sounds of approval, the clicking of Krell appendages, the harmonic tones of Viridian joy, and the applause of other species. Daniel stood quietly, watching history unfold before him. After the main ceremony, a reception was held. Daniel found himself approached by beings from many different worlds, all curious about the human who had somehow catalyzed this unexpected peace. As he spoke with a delegation from a gas giant species, he felt a presence behind him. Turning, he found High Commander ZHR waiting patiently. "A moment of your time, Lieutenant Green?" the Krell asked. Daniel excused himself and followed ZHR to a quiet corner of the room. "The Supreme Warlord has ordered me to present you with this," Star said, holding out a small ornate box. "It is a great honor." Daniel opened the box carefully. Inside lay a ceremonial dagger, its blade made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The handle was carved from what looked like bone, inlaid with precious stones. "This is the blade of Krath, passed down through 20 generations of Supreme Warlords," Star explained. "It is traditionally given to the worthiest adversary the Warlord has faced in combat." Daniel looked up in surprise. "But we never fought." "No," Star agreed, "and that is why you won." Before Daniel could respond, Prime Delegate Ilara approached. She carried a small crystal that pulsed with blue light. The High Council has asked me to present you with this memory crystal, she said. It contains the collective gratitude of the Viridian people. When held, it allows you to experience the joy of 3 billion beings who will now live in peace. Daniel accepted both gifts with humble thanks, feeling overwhelmed by their significance. Later that evening, as the celebrations continued, Daniel slipped away to the observation deck. He stood at the window, looking out at the stars and the distant fleets that were now beginning to disperse to their home systems. Commander Nash joined him there, as she had so many times during the past weeks. Thinking about going home? She asked. Daniel nodded. The Horizon leaves tomorrow. My mission is complete. What will you tell people on Earth about all this? Olivia asked. Daniel considered the question carefully. The truth. That too advanced? Civilizations stopped fighting, not because of anything special about humans, but because they were ready for peace. They just needed a mirror to see themselves clearly. And the mirror happened to be you, Olivia said with a small smile. It could have been anyone, Daniel replied. I was just in the right place at the right time. I don't think so, Olivia said. There was something about you specifically that reached them, the way you listened, the way you asked questions, the way you never judged. Daniel turned from the window. What happens now? Will the peace last? The treaty includes provisions for ongoing diplomatic exchanges, joint scientific missions, and cultural programs, Olivia said. Both sides have already begun withdrawing military forces from contested areas. I think they're committed to making this work. And what about humanity's role in all this? Daniel asked. They still see us as some kind of superior beings. That will change with time, Olivia replied. As they get to know more humans, they'll develop a more nuanced understanding of us. But maybe that first impression wasn't entirely wrong. Maybe they saw something in us that we've forgotten about ourselves. The next morning, Daniel boarded the shuttle that would take him back to the Horizon. Both alien delegations came to see him off. High Commander Ziachitar and Prime Delegate Ilara stood side by side, something that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. The human leaves, Ziachitar announced formally, but what he has taught us remains. We will not forget, Ilara added, and we will not return to war. Daniel smiled at them both. I didn't teach you anything. You found your own way to peace. Perhaps, Shtar said, but you showed us it was possible. As the shuttle pulled away from the station, Daniel watched through the window as the figures grew smaller. He thought about the strange journey that had brought him here and the unexpected role he had played. Captain Lavra Bennett greeted him when he arrived back on the Horizon. Welcome back, Lieutenant. Earth Central is calling this the most successful diplomatic mission in human history. Daniel shook his head with a smile. All I did was show up. Sometimes, the captain replied. That's all it takes. As the Horizon prepared to leave the system, Daniel stood on the bridge, watching the stars. He wondered how many other conflicts across the galaxy might end not with humanity's strength, but with its example, a species that had faced its own demons and survived to reach for the stars. In his quarters, the ceremonial dagger and the memory crystal sat side by side. Gifts from former enemies who had found peace because a human arrived as an observer and they surrendered without a fight.